I lied to my husband that we were already divorced. I lied to my 2 exes that I was single. And I thought I could get away with it. I threw 8 years of marriage in the trash just because I was bored. My name's Alara, 34, female. And if there's one thing I've learned the hard way, it's that you can destroy your entire life without anyone lifting a finger against you. You can burn down your own marriage, your family, your friendships, all with this toxic little voice in your head whispering that you deserve more. 8 years married. My husband Corvin, 36, male, was steady, patient, the kind of man people say is too good for this world. He worked long hours in IT, but always came home to me. He never shouted, never threw a plate, never stormed out. Corvin was the kind of man who remembered birthdays, who fixed leaky faucets without complaint, who rubbed my back when my migraines came, and that, God help me, became boring to me. Boring. Can you believe that? So I started scrolling through old photos late at night, those stupid nostalgia rabbit holes that end with you typing a name into Facebook search. Darius popped up first. My high school boyfriend, the one who used to sneak me into concerts, kiss me against brick walls, leave me trembling with that reckless, forbidden energy. Then there was Kale, my college ex, the poet, the dreamer, who once read me Neruda by candlelight before breaking my heart like it was performance art. I told myself it was innocent. Just catching up. Everyone does it, right? But I didn't tell Corvin. Instead, I started lying in layers. To Corvin, I said we were already divorced but waiting on paperwork. To Darius and Kale, I claimed I was single, free, rediscovering myself. And I believed my own lies. I told myself this was progressive, this was enlightened, that wanting stability and adventure at the same time made me evolved. Corvin would sit beside me on the couch while I texted my exes under the blanket, his hand brushing my knee. And I'd flinch, annoyed, like his touch was interrupting the adrenaline I was chasing. The man who had stood by me through miscarriages, debt, depression, suddenly felt like a nuisance compared to the forbidden emotions of late-night messages with men who had already broken me once. It wasn't just emotional. I started sneaking out under the excuse of book club and yoga and work dinners. I thought I was untouchable. Clever. I had Darius telling me I was his unfinished story, Kale saying I was the muse he'd been waiting for. And Corvin, sweet, trusting Corvin, kept making me coffee every morning like nothing was wrong. I thought I was holding all the cards, but the truth? Corvin was watching, quietly, patiently, collecting. And when he finally moved, he made sure it would end me. Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. And tell me what you think in the comments. I'll feature the best one in the next video. I used to think I was some kind of mastermind, weaving 3 lives at once. The perfect wife in the mornings, texting good luck at your meeting while secretly planning to meet Darius for drinks that night. The nostalgic lover to Darius, painting myself as the girl he'd lost but could finally win back. And with Kale, I was the tortured muse, feeding his ego while he sent me drafts of half-finished poems, calling me his eternal fire. But living 3 lives bleeds you dry. I started slipping. Corvin would ask why I smelled like cologne that wasn't his, and I'd laugh it off. Oh, just perfume samples at the mall. Darius wanted me to prove I was really free, so I started spinning bigger lies about my divorce papers. Kale pushed harder, asking why I couldn't stay the night when I claimed I had no one at home. It was like balancing knives in the dark. One wrong move and everything would come down. The worst part? I didn't even feel guilty, not at first. I felt powerful, desired, like I had finally clawed back some version of the wild, reckless Alara I thought I'd buried in my 20s. Corvin, with his quiet devotion and steady routines, seemed pale next to the rush of being wanted so hungrily by men from my past. One night, I came home from yoga and found Corvin sitting in the living room with a glass of whiskey. He almost never drank, and it startled me. He didn't yell, didn't accuse. He just looked at me with those calm, piercing eyes that made me feel like he could see right through every lie I'd ever told. "How was class?" he asked. My stomach dropped. I smiled too quickly, said, "Great. Lots of stretching." He just nodded, sipped his drink, and said, "Good. You'll need to stay flexible." That should have terrified me, but instead I brushed it off, because I was stupid enough to think I was still in control. Meanwhile, Darius started pressing me harder. He wanted to meet my family now, to see what my life looked like beyond the stolen kisses in his car. Kale, ever the dramatist, wrote me this sprawling email about how he couldn't be my secret anymore, that I had to choose him openly or let him go. I laughed when I read it, Told myself they'd both cave because hadn't they always? But the cracks were showing. My friends started noticing I was distracted, phone always buzzing, excuses always piling up. At work, I got called into HR for missing deadlines. Even my sister hinted at something, asking if everything was okay between me and Corvin because you look restless. Restless. That was one word for it. The truth was, Corvin wasn't just watching, he was planning. And the man I had dismissed as boring was about to teach me what patience really looks like. The more I chased the adrenaline, the more the walls started closing in. Darius wanted dates in public now, not just bars across town. Cale kept calling me late at night, his voice low and insistent, asking me to prove. I wasn't lying about being single. I felt like I was juggling grenades with the pins half pulled. And Corvin, God, Corvin stayed maddeningly calm. That was worse than anger. He didn't argue, didn't accuse. He'd leave his phone out, open-faced on the table, while I kept mine glued to me like a life raft. He'd ask how my book club was and smile when I said fine, even though I was sure he knew it was a lie. He started cooking dinner more often, too, always waiting up for me no matter how late I got home. Every kindness felt like a knife pressing against my throat. One night, Darius texted me, "Bring me a photo of your place. I want to see you in your world, not just mine." I panicked. I couldn't send a picture of Corvin's house. His shoes by the door, his jacket on the hook, our wedding photo on the shelf. So I staged it. I snapped a picture in the guest room, stripped down the details, told Darius it was my new apartment. He bought it, for now. Cale, meanwhile, was unraveling in his own way. He posted some cryptic poem online about a woman divided, destroying everything with her hunger. People in his little artsy circle loved it, of course, but I froze when I read it. If Corvin stumbled across that, he'd know. Maybe he already had. Because Corvin had started doing something subtle but terrifying, asking about my day in detail. "So, yoga was downtown, right? Did you see anyone after?" Or, "Book club, was that the one with your sister's friend or someone else?" Always casual, like he was just making conversation. But his questions were surgical, precise, like he was documenting my lies. And then came the moment that should have broken me, but didn't. I came home one evening to find our wedding photo face down on the mantel. At first I thought I'd bumped it earlier, but the frame wasn't cracked. It had been set down, carefully, deliberately. Corvin didn't mention it. He just sat at the kitchen table tapping something on his laptop, and when I asked about dinner, he said, "Already ate." That silence ate me alive. Darius kept pushing, Cale kept demanding, and Corvin kept watching. And me? I told myself I could keep all three of them satisfied, like some queen holding court. But in reality, the game was slipping out of my hands. What I didn't know, what I couldn't possibly know, was that Corvin wasn't just collecting lies. He was setting up a stage, a trap so precise that when it finally snapped shut, he would shred the thin little fantasy world I'd built, and by then, it would be too late to escape. By the time autumn rolled around, I was unraveling faster than I could stitch myself back together. Darius wanted proof of my divorce, asking why he hadn't seen any paperwork. Cale accused me of keeping him in the shadows, his messages turning sharp and desperate. "Do you want me, or are you just using me as a distraction from your husband?" I lied to both of them, of course. Told Darius the lawyers were dragging their feet. Told Cale I just needed more time to heal. Lies stacked on lies, each one wobbling under the weight of the last. Corvin, though, he became a ghost in his own home. He moved through the rooms quietly, his footsteps measured, his eyes unreadable. He never confronted me, never called me out. That should have been a blessing. Instead, it felt like a blade hovering above me, suspended by a thread I couldn't see. Then the invitations started. Corvin suggested hosting a small dinner at our house. Something simple, he said. Just a few friends. My heart nearly stopped when he handed me the list. Neutral names, co-workers, neighbors, normal people, safe. Or so I thought. In the days leading up to it, he was oddly cheerful, humming while he cooked, polishing glasses, even fixing up the dining room with candles like it was some anniversary dinner. He bought me a new dress, too. A deep red one, the kind he always said suited me. "Wear this," he said, placing it gently on the bed. His voice was warm, but there was something beneath it, something I couldn't name. The night of the dinner I painted on my best smile. Guests arrived, laughter filled the house, and for a moment I let myself believe this was real, that maybe Corvin was softening, that maybe he didn't suspect anything after all. But then the doorbell rang, and when I opened it, my blood froze. Darius stood there holding a bottle of wine and smiling like we were some public couple. Behind him, Cale carried a notebook, the pretentious kind he always had, as if ready to jot down inspiration mid-conversation. Both of them at my door. For a split second, I thought it was a coincidence, some cruel trick of fate. But when I turned to look at Corvin standing in the hallway with that same unreadable calm, I knew. He had invited them. I felt my stomach twist, my knees threatening to give. The room around me blurred with chatter and clinking glasses, but all I could hear was my pulse pounding like a war drum in my ears. Corvin stepped forward, smiling politely. "Come in," he told them. "We've been waiting for you." And I realized this wasn't a dinner party. It was an execution. The air that night felt thick, like even the walls knew something was about to break. I stood frozen in the foyer, staring at Darius and Cale as they crossed into the house, both of them clearly thinking they were here because I wanted them. Darius leaned down to kiss my cheek, casual, possessive. Cale's eyes flicked around the living room, curious, like he was cataloging the evidence of my life. My heart hammered so loudly I thought everyone at the table could hear it. Corvin, though, was flawless. He guided them in with the smoothness of a host who'd done this 100 times. "Glad you could both make it," he said, his voice warm, steady. He poured wine into their glasses before I could even process what was happening. The rest of the guests, our co-workers and neighbor couple, one of Corvin's old friends, had no idea what kind of storm they were about to witness. They laughed, chatted, complimented the food. Meanwhile, my skin felt like it was being peeled off inch by inch. Halfway through dinner, Corvin cleared his throat. The table quieted, expectant. He raised his glass. "To truth?" he said simply. His eyes never left mine. Then he stood, walked to the sideboard, picked up a folder, and laid it right in the center of the table. "Since we're all among friends tonight," he said, "I thought it was the perfect time to share a little story about my wife." The blood drained from my face. He opened the folder, sliding out printouts, screenshots of my messages with Darius, with Cale, photos of me slipping into bars, timestamps lining up with the lies I'd told about yoga or book club, even receipts. He documented everything. Darius went rigid. Cale's mouth fell open, pale as paper. Corvin's voice didn't shake once. He read aloud a snippet of my message to Darius. "I can't wait to be free. Corvin and I are basically done." Then he slid over another, one I had sent to Cale. "I feel alive again with you. You're the only one who really sees me." The silence at that table was suffocating. I tried to speak, to stammer something about context, about misunderstanding, but Darius cut me off. "You told me you were divorced," he snapped, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. Cale's hands were trembling. "You said you were single. You said you were mine." Every eye was on me. Neighbors, co-workers, friends, all of them watching the mask rip off my face in real time. Corvin placed his hand on the table, steady, deliberate. "Gentlemen," he said, addressing Darius and Cale with perfect composure. "Now you know the truth. She lied to you just as she lied to me." Then, without raising his voice, he looked at me and said, "This marriage is over." And right there, in front of everyone, he pulled out the divorce papers. Signed. Ready. The room spun. I felt like I was falling, but there was no ground to catch me. I don't remember leaving that dinner. I don't remember the drive, the faces, or the words people whispered behind their glasses of wine. All I remember is the sound of my own heartbeat, violent and uneven, and the way Darius refused to even look at me as he stormed out. Cale didn't scream. He didn't need to. He just stared at me like I was something rotten, then muttered, "You've destroyed everything," before walking into the night. Corvin didn't say a word as he handed me the divorce papers in front of everyone. He didn't need to. The silence was louder than any scream could have been. By the next morning, the story was already spreading. One of our neighbors posted about the scene online without names, but people put it together fast. Screenshots started leaking. Don't ask me how. Maybe Darius, maybe Cale, maybe Corvin himself. Suddenly I was the subject of whispers at work and my family, even at the grocery store. My phone lit up with messages that were supposed to hurt, but mostly just hollowed me out. My mother texted, "How could you do this to Corvin? He was family. Don't come here until you've figured yourself out." My sister called me selfish, a manipulator. Even my closest friends stopped answering after posting some vague protect your peace quote that felt like it had my name scrawled all over it. But the worst came from Darius. He wrote this long, furious post on his own social media. Some people destroy families and call it progress. Some people call the manipulation freedom. Beware of those who want it all. They'll leave scorched earth behind. He didn't name me, but everyone knew. The comments filled with sympathy for him, anger for me. By the end of the week, I was branded as the homewrecker, the liar, the family destroyer. And Cale, the poet, he used me as material, a bitter little verse that went semi-viral in his scene, calling me a false muse and a thief of light. Pretentious as hell, but devastating. People quoted it, shared it, some even messaged me directly, calling me names I won't repeat. At work, I walked into the office only to be pulled aside by HR. "We think it's best if you take some time off," they said. They didn't fire me outright, but everyone knew it was just a matter of the weeks. Clients didn't want to be associated with someone whose name was now floating in group chats and gossip boards as shorthand for betrayal. And Corvin? He moved out quietly, took what was his, left me with the house for a moment, until the legal paperwork came through and the property was stripped from me too. In less than 2 months, I lost everything. My husband, both of my lovers, my friends, my family, my job, my home. Now I sit in a cheap rented room with peeling paint and a broken heater, working a night shift that chews up my body and spits me out every morning. My phone doesn't light up anymore. Nobody waits for me at home. And the thing I keep replaying, the single moment that haunts me, is Corvin's calm voice at that dinner table saying, "This marriage is over." Because it wasn't just the marriage. It was my whole life. If I thought the silence of losing everyone was the worst part, I was wrong. The silence didn't last. What came next was noise. Loud, messy, humiliating noise. It started small. Someone spray-painted "liar" across my car one night, red letters dripping like blood across the hood. I knew it wasn't random, too precise, too pointed. Neighbors avoided my eyes when I walked past, but I saw the smirks, the pity. When I called the police, they just shrugged. "Looks like a personal dispute," the officer said, like I'd brought it on myself. Maybe I had. Then came the confrontation at the grocery store. I was standing in line with a basket of ramen and canned soup when a woman I vaguely knew from Corvin's work approached me. She didn't lower her voice. "You disgust me," she said, loud enough that heads turned. 8 years he gave you, and this is how you repay him?" My hands shook so badly I dropped the can of soup, and when it rolled across the floor I couldn't even bring myself to pick it up. Word spread everywhere. My name became a warning, a punchline. Darius's friends blocked me. Cale posted another poem, this time even more venomous, basically branding me as a parasite. It got shared thousands of times. I tried commenting once, defending myself, but the replies came fast. Snake emojis, insults, strangers telling me I deserved to rot alone. My family didn't soften either. My mother told me not to show up at her house because people are talking and we can't be associated with your shame. My sister texted me a photo of her tearing up one of my old letters, captioned, "This is what you did to us." The worst moment came 2 weeks after the dinner. I went back to the house, what used to be our house, just to grab the last of my things. Corvin had already moved out, but he left one thing on the mantel, right where our wedding photo used to stand. The empty picture frame, shattered glass in a neat pile beneath it. No note, no explanation, just that broken frame. I picked it up and cut my finger on the glass, and for a moment I just stood there bleeding in the living room that used to hold our life together. It felt symbolic, like Corvin had left me with one final reminder. You did this. You broke it. Now I work nights at a warehouse hauling boxes until my body aches, then come back to this room with thin walls and neighbors who scream at each other until dawn. No one calls. No one checks in. My phone is just a glowing clock, a reminder of how empty my life has become. And here's the cruelest truth. I wanted more. I wanted passion, danger, excitement. I told myself I could balance it all and stay untouchable. But what I really did was light a match and stand there smiling while everything burned. And now, all that's left is ash. It's strange how quickly people forget you once you're no longer useful to them. A year ago, I was a wife with a warm home, a circle of friends, a family that, however critical, still claimed me. Now, I'm Alara, the cautionary tale whispered in bars and family gatherings, the woman who wanted too much and lost it all. The final blow came last month. I found out through a mutual acquaintance, because of course no one tells me directly, that Corvin has a new partner. Her name is Mara. I don't know much about her except that she's kind, stable, the kind of woman who actually values him. I saw a picture once, floating across social media before I could scroll fast enough. Corvin smiling, his arm around Mara, her head resting on his shoulder. He looked free. That smile gutted me more than all the screaming, all the humiliation, and all the silence combined, because it wasn't a vengeful smile, it was peace, the kind I stole from him and will never get back from myself. Meanwhile, Darius is engaged to someone else. He blocked me completely, but word travels. Cale moved to another city, his little artsy scene eating up every poem he wrote about betrayal. I am immortalized in his work as a destroyer, a warning, a villain. In some twisted way, I became his greatest inspiration, but not in the way I ever wanted. My family? Still gone. My mother said I made my bed, so I should lie in it. My sister told me she doesn't have a sister anymore. The few friends I had melted away, not wanting the stain of me on them. And me? I work nights, sleep days, and sit in this cramped room with appealing wallpaper. My body aches, my hands are raw, my face has aged 10 years in 12 months. I've thought about reaching out, just once, to Corvin to apologize, to beg for some kind of acknowledgement, but I know what he'd say if he said anything at all. Too late. The truth is, I ruined my own life. Not Corvin, not Darius, not Cale, me. I convinced myself I was enlightened, that I could rewrite the rules of love and loyalty to suit my desires. I thought I was powerful, juggling the stability of a husband with the passion of forbidden lovers. I told myself it was progress, that I was living fully, bravely. But it wasn't progress. It was greed. It was selfishness dressed up as freedom. And in trying to have it all, I lost everything. So here I am, writing this not because I expect forgiveness, but because maybe someone out there needs to hear it. If you treat love like it's replaceable, if you lie to the one person who trusted you most, if you keep reaching for more without valuing what you already have, eventually you'll end up like me, alone, regretting every choice, staring at the ashes of a life you can never rebuild. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel and like it. You can also watch more shocking stories in the playlist.